Hi, everyone. This is the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv, and welcome to the show. Today's title is You Were Never Meant to Fit In, and I have a special guest with me, Nedjma Belaid. Nedjma Belaid is a modern priestess and mentor who empowers women to stop dimming their light to fit in, to be their true selves, and shine their goddess within so they can experience levels of love, joy, and fulfillment they never thought possible. A former pharmacist and Tony Robbins coach, she has studied various coaching and healing modalities and was certified as a clinical hypnotherapist, NLP master practitioner, and was ordained as a yogic priestess. Hello. She is the founder of With Kind Awareness and the creator of the Sacred Undressing Journey. Introducing Nedjma to the show. Hi.
Hi, Viv. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here chatting with you.
Likewise, thank you for joining me. So let's just dive straight into the questions because I have so many things to ask you. You have such a
Absolutely.
rich, multi-dimensional journey from pharmacy to priestesshood. What called you to finally stop dimming your light and start your own soul-led mission?
Mm. Yes. Well, it's been a lifetime journey, to be honest with you, right? I started in this world with parents that come from two different religious and cultural backgrounds that ended up divorcing and kind of feeling in that middle of like, okay, I need to please everybody, right? I need to like, daddy wants me to be that way, mommy wants me to be that way, and starting to kind of be a bit of a chameleon, like adapting myself. How, because as a kid, we all want to be loved and accepted by both our parents. That kind of like is a deep seated desire for every kid. So that really
Yes.
started that way. Of course, happening with friends at school as well, and starting to kind of develop that pattern. I got really good at assessing and trying to mind read what people wanted me to be, to do, to say, not say, which comes with its own anxiety and kind of like hardening, because if you're always like assessing, you can't really be yourself and just kind of relax in being who you are. So really what started to lead me was this kind of unanswerable question of, am I lovable?
Ooh.
But no matter how much proof I would get from the outside, it was just never enough. That's why it's an unanswerable question. Because there was
Mm.
always times like it's not possible that everybody loves us all the time, that you picked first in teams, that you're always winning. Like, people will
Yeah.
be peopling, life will be lifing. And so there's going to be things that we feel like, oh, I was wrong. Like making mistakes was like one of the worst things that could happen, because I would just start being so hard on myself and
Mm.
saying horrible things to myself. And so all this journey of being, how I call it now, very outside in minded. Like I'm looking outside of myself for proof that I'm lovable, I'm worthy, but it's just never enough. It never fills me up. So I'm kind of like going out in the world, starving for any scraps of love or approval I could find, only to find myself unsatisfied, bitter, resentful, and then ending up just kind of isolating, because now
Mm.
it's like it's so draining to be around people if I'm assessing and trying to meet all the expectations, and
Definitely.
I'd rather be on my own. So I think that was the pain, really, and that happens a lot, like so much pain and isolation. And actually, at some point, I was taking some stimulants for ADHD, which aggravated my anxiety, because I was also diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I wasn't taking medication for it at that time, but it made me start to like be so anxious, because of course if you think a stimulant like heightens you, so it definitely makes your anxiety worse. And so what happened is that my doctor prescribed me some anti-anxiety medicine, and that really made me feel at that time, because I was a pharmacist at that time, like, I don't want to start being so medicated at such a young age, because I know there's other ways. I know there's other ways to handle these things. So I brought the prescription to the pharmacy and never picked it up. And I think like all of the culmination of the pain and the struggle and being so reactive to people and like having the perfect life on paper, ticking all the boxes, but internally just being in a struggle with all of this, like, this said that, I can't believe she said that. Like, I'm good with by myself. But then the moment I interact with the world, like, you ruined my day. Thank you very much. And just kind of like this assessing and pleasing just was unbearable. And with this anxiety heightened, like I was having rashes on my neck, like it was pretty horrible. I decided, okay, I'm
Wow.
going to find a way to treat this, or I'm going to be medicated for my whole life. And so that's what led me to dive deep into the world of self-development. I like gobbled everything I could find on YouTube. I found a teacher. She guided me towards like so many courses on coaching, like learning coaching, like NLP, hypnosis, different types of
Oh,
spirituality, initially just to heal myself. But I
yeah.
collected certifications along the way because I went and did the whole education. I traveled overseas. I did the whole thing. And at some point, it got to a point where I'm like, I'm not that passionate about pharmacy anymore. I really like all this like self-work, self-evolution stuff because it's transformed my life and I could help others with that. And so that's really how it led me to make this career change, so to speak. Started with joining Tony Robbins because it felt safer, right? It's like I'm from a job to a job. I'm still employed. I still have like health benefits. It's not the scary self-employed, you know. But after just about almost 2 years and over 2,000 coaching sessions given, I started to feel like I was called to something else. Like my mission wasn't within that organization, even though I was so grateful for everything I've gotten from working there.
Yeah.
That I was called to actually serve women and help them come to their own authenticity and undress all these layers of conditioning and limiting belief and false identities and perfectionism so they can come home to their light, to their own essence, and not feel like they have to choose between being loved and being free.
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I have so many things to say. First of all, I really appreciate the work that you're doing because I know what it's like to transform as a woman from being a people pleaser, being somebody that with low self esteem to feeling empowered and being your best self. And it's the best gift that I can give a woman, honestly. But let me take you back to what you were saying. I relate to your story because I've been there, people pleasing, being there for people. And I think for me, the most interesting thing I remember from that journey is the big discomfort, the huge misalignments that I felt. I just knew in my body that this is not who you are, you know? And yet I still persisted because you want to be accepted and you want to look good on paper. But oh my goodness, the way my journey has screamed to me that you should never try to look good on paper, that it's the detriment to you as a person and to your soul. I followed my own instincts to become this person that is carving her own path and doing her own thing because I know that I don't fit in society. And that's why the title of this episode is You're Not Meant to Fit In. When you try and live in a way where you seek that external validation, that's why I always say I'm not looking outside for validation. It's so distracting, it's so misleading. I'm seeking for everything inside. And when it comes outside, I'll know how to receive it because I already give myself that validation. And it's so important for women to know this, for people to know this, just so that they can enhance their living experience. Because the worst thing in life, I feel, I haven't experienced it, is to be somebody you're not, just to feel accepted, just
Yeah.
to feel validated, just to feel seen. But the thing is, now people see you because they see the version of you that they wanted, but you can't see yourself. And because you can't see yourself, you're not connected to yourself. And because you're not connected to yourself, you're so unhappy. You don't know why you're unhappy. And to go from that pit and dig yourself out, oh my goodness, the most long painful experience ever. But it's beautiful when you get to this side that you and I are on. You realize that you're no longer
Yeah.
interested in pharmacy. You want to explore everything to get to this point where you and I are here now, where you discovered that pharmacy is something that you're no longer interested in and you'd rather, embark on a different journey. And I was saying that kudos to you because I know Tony Robbins as a coach. So that's really impressive that you worked in his organization for 2 years. That's amazing because that means that you really got to like connect with people and, advise people, coach people to be better. So bringing it back to what you were saying, I do love the fact that now that is what you're doing. And that's why I felt connected to you when I read your profile about people pleasing and moving from that place. It's such a bottomless pit that you
Mhm.
never feel like you could get out of. But
Yes.
it's when you do the work, honestly, so worth it. It's gruesome, yes, but it's worth it. And I just want my listeners to know that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I call it like the silent ache. Like it's like
Mm,
I got that to a point where I'm like, oh, like I'm not unhappy. I guess I ticked all the boxes. I had the dog, the house, the husband, and I was mom soon. And
mm,
like,
wow.
why am I sitting at my kitchen table? I have the career looking for and then finding like life coaching and trying to look what the definition of that is. And what am I searching? What's going on? And now I know that just like you said, when we're not connected to who we are because we're so focused on becoming what everybody else tells us to be, like we think that this is about fitting in unconsciously. And then we're just, well, who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? Why am I here? And it's kind of like this sense of like, either I can tweak myself to be loved and fit in, or I can say, never mind that, I'll just be free. And I got
Yes.
Yes, and that I call it like the good girl or the rebel.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And what happens is that I like to use like pendulum. Like if you go to one extreme of a pendulum and you let it go, it's gonna go to the other extreme, and then you just get yourself dizzy. But we want to
Mm,
start dancing in the middle as opposed to going
yes.
to these extreme
Beautiful.
because what I have found is it's it's not the good girl that's the solution, and it's certainly not the rebel either.
Mm,
Although initially it's like it feels like we need to stop there to just like, okay, I'm going to set boundaries and I'm going to put myself first, and it's a little like unartful and clunky and maybe sometimes a bit aggressive at first because we're just like but then when we can get to that place of like, I can be rooted in my truth and deeply connected with people. I can
mm,
be with people peopling and being people, right? Betraying, talking behind my back, being reactive, whatever people do, without making it me go either good girl or rebel, and just staying in that middle where I'm just like loving on people because I love myself.
yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm loving everything you're saying. Oh. Okay. So, how do you assist women in shining their goddess within?
Yes. So what I do primarily is one-on-one coaching, and I also teach classes. So we talked about the Sacred Undressing Journey. Like that's really my signature method. So really, every woman don't have to like become a goddess or do anything. Like you already are. Like it's your light in the middle of you. Like if you think about like Russian dolls,
Mm-hmm.
like, so it's like you've kept putting layers on top of you, and there might be like protection layers, assessing layers, a false identity
So
layer, a
true.
hard on myself layer, a perfectionist layer. And like at some point it gets so thick that the light can't really shine through. Like we're dimming our lights with that. But when we start undressing these journeys, undressing these layers, we start allowing the light, which is our core self, our goddess within, to shine through.
Mm,
And so, really, it's a process of awareness, undressing, and owning, unleashing our goddess. And then, what you notice is that when you dim light and you put something on top of it and you start undressing it, the light doesn't is not just like contained; it starts to expand.
oh.
It starts to fill the room, and then you step into your purpose, and you start realizing, oh my gosh, like having relationships is not that dichotomy of either F
This
you
or
or
that.
I'm just going to do everything you want. And what I, along the way, I have these sacred four archetypes that are kind of like sacred initiations in themselves and really kind of like different aspects of the journey. So starting with the queen, which is all about your inner sovereignty, like taking responsibility, like self responsibility, triggers, honoring ourselves, leading ourselves. And then we go to the warrioress, which is all about now like externalizing that part of us. How do I communicate? How do I handle conflict? How do I set boundaries or don't set boundaries? And also the externalizing of our purpose. Like, what am I here to do? Like this actions aspect of the warrioress. And then, and that was my journey, we get to the lover, which is a little bit more advanced. But the lover is the part where we start to learn now unconditional love. Not just for ourselves, but for others. Now there's no like, I'll love you in only if, right? As long as. If you meet my expectations and you don't piss me off, we can say, I can still love you. And the same thing for ourselves. And being able to receive and be with peopling. And finally, we have the mystic, which is a higher level or more like spiritual aspect, where it's like now we learn how we can tune ourselves and go and transcend our concept of selves and seeing more like the oneness of who we are. Like, you're triggered by XYZ. Like, I'm triggered by stuff too. Okay. I get you, even though we don't have the same experience of everything, because I'm also human and I can get pain and I can understand that, but I can tune to my truth and I can tune also myself and my sense of identity to match what I'm looking to create. And on it goes. So it's kind of like a spiral, right? Then we go back to the queen, another layer, and we can go another layer deeper. But that's what we use along the way to start undressing layers and reveal more and more of our truth and our goddess with it.
So let me get this straight. You
Yeah.
start with the fighter.
The queen.
You start with the queen.
Yes. And then the
Oh.
warrioress. Yeah. I
Oh,
started with the
queen,
warrioress
warrioress. Okay.
I love that you call it the fighter. I think the fighter might be like almost like the darker side of the warrioress.
Mm.
Because I think it's like almost like the essence, a little bit of the rebel. It's like, well, that's what happened to me. I was like the good girl. And at some point I'm like, no more. Like, this is me, whether you like it or not. And I'm going to put boundaries and, you're not going to cross here. And if you can't communicate with that, like, you're not going to be in my life. Like, that's not really what the warrioress is about. But that only happened because I didn't have the queen work first, where it's like taking responsibility for my own reactions, as opposed to feeling like, well, you made me feel X, so now you're not going to be in my life.
Okay, that's very interesting because so all these four archetypes, right? It's not like a
Yeah,
stage. You can start with either one.
that's true.
Okay, so it's not a progressive stage. Okay, I get it now. So you have the queen, you have the warrioress, you have the lover, you have the mystic.
That's right.
And you're saying that an embodied woman or a woman that is fully in her goddess energy embodies all four archetypes?
That's correct. Yes.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. I have a follow up for you.
Yeah.
What archetypes do you find that most women try to resist?
I would say the lover.
Ooh, I would have thought you'd say the mystic, but tell me why
There's
the lover.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so many women who are spiritual, who
Mm,
know like, okay, oneness and like choosing your state and identity. But when it comes to relationships, right, the lover is like that part of us that's actually able to be with peopling. And I think that's the part that people struggle with the most. And I've had that in my journey, because when you start learning these things, like, oh, you're responsible for your reactions to things, right? And then what happens is people start to make us responsible for their reaction. And we're like, no, no, no,
yeah.
sister, like, that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to like teach people to evolve themselves or to be aware in order for them to leave us alone.
Yeah.
But that's still trying to control and trying to change what's outside of us so we can feel good.
Okay.
And so when we're taking self-responsibility, actually, like, and what the lover is able to do, that level is like, I can be with people feeling like I'm the problem
Mm,
without needing to defend, without needing to make them wrong, without needing to explain to them that they're the ones who's not taking responsibility for themselves and trying to teach them the stuff.
yes.
Not as a doormat, though, because some people might feel like, oh, I guess I just need to take it, because I'm so evolved. No, you're still rooted in your truth. But you can lovingly be like, okay, I get it. That's fine. Like, there's someone in my family that doesn't accept that I'm not of their religion. And that's been a struggle for years. And for most of my life, I was wanting to defend and explain and have them understand my side. But then what I realized is that I was doing to them what they were doing to me. They wanted me to understand their side. And so when I dropped that and I started to just love whatever they're able to give to me, there was just nothing to resist anymore. And even when they're like trying to push their religion on me or to teach me things about religion that I already know, instead of being like, they're trying to change me again, like I can be like, okay, they care. They're not going to change. That's what they want. But
Hmm.
I know that I have the safe self agency to choose what I want versus before I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to change for them to love me.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah.
Okay, two things for you. I know
Hmm.
that you explained the archetypes while applying it to yourself, but I would love definitions and qualities for each archetype. Like what is queen archetype, this, what they embody, like
Yeah.
in a factual manner, because I like to think of things like school, where they just give you a definition and example. Yeah, I like thinking about things like that. So that's my
Yes.
first question. My second one is,
Cool.
what religion did you move away from?
Gotcha. So the archetypes, the queen, I it's not coming to my mind all the details because I have like specific words. So let me just bring that up for you because I want to give you what you're looking for.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So the queen is all about owning herself, number
Hmm.
one. So we're talking here about self responsibility, emotions, reactivity, about honoring herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honoring herself, we're talking here about self care. We're talking here about speaking nicely to ourselves,
Mm.
creating safety from the inside out. And what else? She's leading herself. And she also knows herself because that's a big thing too. Sometimes we need to question a little bit what we think we are, but it could be just a layer we took on.
Mm.
And so kind of like making sure that we're tuning in is like, is that really what I want? Is that really what I desire? And kind of going into these directions. And well, give me one sec for the warrioress. And I actually have a free masterclass that I created called Sparkle
Ooh.
that goes through all of these different archetypes and what the Sacred Undressing Journey is.
Oh, that's really
And
nice.
and there's also a journey to associate within yourself to your queen, to your warrioress, to your lover, to your mystic, and really kind of get the sense of that within you.
Oh, lovely. Okay. I'll
So
check
the
that
warrioress is
out.
all about expressing yourself. Number one, composing yourself, meaning having some composure, not being so reactive when people are there. How do you hold your ground? How do you stay rooted in yourself in conflict?
Yes.
And then empowering yourself, which is about that purpose aspect, right? So what is my aim? Like how am I empowering myself as opposed to just like, well, I guess it's the 9 to 5 and the day to day. It's like, no, what's something that I would like to stand for to create in this life that really feels like it's sliding me up. And it's also about believing in yourself. The lover is all about opening yourself. As women, oftentimes we have this tendency to close. No, nothing. Never mind. I'm okay. Right. And then actually, the strength comes when we're able to stay open and not like stay open, like, okay, go for it, hurt me. No, stay open with power and with love.
Wow.
It's about loving yourself. So, that concept that I spoke earlier about unconditional love, connecting yourself with others. So, understanding like now having unconditional love for the other person and dropping kind of like unrealistic expectations, that things that break the connection, and giving of yourself. And that's a big one because a lot of women will say, well, I'm over giving.
Mm.
So, what's true giving? And what's actually giving that comes from, I'm going to give in order to feel loved. I'm going to give in order to for you to like me. So those are very different energies, and we want to let go of that people pleasing, overgiving, like darker energy, so to speak, that pulls us down, and actually step into I'm giving because I want to. I'm giving because I'm overflowing from the inside out, and I got so much to give. And the mystic is about tuning ourselves. So tuning ourselves to our truth, to, depending on what you believe, your higher self, the divine, God, and kind of like your own truth beyond this 3D person, right? But also tuning yourself in terms of like your state of being, your emotional state. What's like your tuning fork? Like if you're like choosing the radio channel and then you're tuning to that frequency, what frequency you're tuning into that actually creates your experience of life.
So true.
Then it's about being yourself. It's like, oh, okay, well, big questions. Who am I? Right? What might be some of the false identities that I've picked up? Right?
Mm,
And in the idea of like when I said when you undress, the light expands. Who am I becoming? Who am I actually? What's the possibilities of me that I want to tap into?
yes.
The mystic also unburdens herself, where we kind of like let go of like all these attachments that we have to things happening a certain way, to certain people, to our set certain expectations, and kind of being more in that surrender and faith.
Okay.
And a big piece of that one is really tapping into the energetics of gratitude.
Okay.
And finally, the mystic transcends herself. And so that's kind of a little bit what I was talking about, oneness and transcending this illusion of separation. Well,
Okay.
so sometimes we can be like, if we're just talking at certain religions, there's kind of like the us and you and them, right? That creates division. And then there's could be some levels of attachment of being people being a certain way, but also then we have like some judgments, like, oh, this type of person or this. So when we start to transcend that, it also kind of start to release this sense of separation and this sense of things that can trigger us. And we're now able to see like, okay, just like me.
Thank you for sharing all of
You're
that.
welcome.
The archetypes that stand out to me most as me, I would
Yeah.
say, okay, I would say luckily and happily, I do feel that I embody these four archetypes, luckily. And this is me knowing that I've done the work. And each definition you give for each archetype, definitely I understand it. It's beautifully described, and I feel resonance with each one, especially the warrioress.
Mhm.
Not that that's my number one, but I understood what you meant when you said the warrioress is the more evolved version of the fighter, because I know what it's
Yeah.
like to have been the fighter, and I now know what it's like to be a warrioress
Mm.
because of evolving through that fighter archetype. So that stayed with me because I knew what you were talking about in terms of being grounded, knowing when to fight, but
Yeah.
being more strategic in fighting as opposed to just lashing out, being able to
Yes.
understand what's coming towards you and handling it better as opposed to just raging. No, in fact, it's kind of like knowing how to use your fire in a way that is productive
Yes.
as opposed to just burning down the whole village.
Yes, I love that. And
Thank you.
that's really the element of that
Yes,
archetype. So
right,
you nailed
right.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. But if you ask me what I feel I embody the most, it's the
Mhm.
mystic followed by the lover. And that even surprised me. But with the mystic,
Mm.
definitely, I'm very in tune. I love to connect with myself. I can even feel myself telling me lately that
Mhm.
I need more time to myself, you know?
Mhm.
So I am there and I've transcended old versions of self. It's so funny
Oh,
because
yeah.
I speak about getting to know a new version of myself now that I've never met before, but I know that she's happy. And that's a key change as opposed to before. You know, just when you just exist at your default setting is I'm happy. I love that
Yes.
because I wasn't like that before and I noticed it a lot. But the next one being the lover surprised me because I was like, wow, I would if I was asked what archetype I resisted the most, it was the lover, being
Yeah.
open. But now I'm open, I'm peopling, I'm getting talking to people. And I always used to say, oh, I'm not a people person, I'm not a people person. But people think I'm an extrovert. People think I'm that person that is always around people. And it's so funny, So
That's
definitely.
what happens. And I'm so glad you're sharing that because that's what happens. People don't realize that. But when you start undressing these layers, like, oh my gosh, like I used to say, I hate people. Like I'm just like you, like, oh gosh, I hate people. People are so much. And
Same.
now I'm working with people all the time, coaching people. My husband say you got out of your cave.
Oh, that's lovely.
But that's what's possible. Now you're
Yeah.
able to actually see beyond the behaviors.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, and that takes me back to your family with the
Mm.
religion thing and how you started to look at how you're seeing them, and you turn the mirror to look at you and say, "This is
Yes.
how they see me."
Mhm.
That's big. That's very evolved, and I commend you
Mhm.
for that because not
Thank you.
everyone can do that. Not everyone can turn the mirror to look at themselves. A lot of time, everyone just wants to point fingers. I'm not a
Yes.
pointing finger person because that means that I'm trying to. I never want to even the way I've done work on myself, it's not even a thing to think about pointing fingers at someone and placing a blame on somebody for something. I always
Yes.
take accountability. I see what people may have done, but I genuinely don't care. What could I have done to make things better? How
Yes.
did I impact this? That's my only business. Anything else
Yes.
involving people has nothing to do with me. So that's how I see. But I really loved how you looked at that situation and turned it around and said it's all love at the end of the day. I
Yes.
like that.
And I love that you've done the work and you got to that place. It's such a beautiful place. And I like to say like I still have layers to undress. I'm not
Mm,
like
perfect.
levitating atop a mountain, like being like, I am the goddess. You know, I am a lot more the goddess,
I
but
love
I
that.
don't even know if you get to be purely the light in this lifetime, right?
Yeah, right?
And I still find myself like with my husband, like, you just made me mad. And then I'm like,
Mm,
wait, hold on. No one can make me mad, right? Talking about self
mm,
responsibility. What is it within
yes.
me that got triggered by his behavior? Right?
Yeah.
It still happens no matter what. Even if we're not saying that, it's like, oh, can't believe blah, blah, blah. And then we're creating this victim, so to speak. Like I'm at the
Yes.
mercy of people, places, and things
Yeah, exactly.
affecting my mood, but it's like it's I like to say to my client, like, we're not setting unrealistic expectations that you're just going to be able to never be triggered, to always be
Mm,
happy, to never let anything you know reach your core or
yes.
press your buttons,
Yes.
especially when you work with family and you family dynamics, oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
that's where we get triggered the most. But
Yes.
it gets to be better. It gets to feel like freer and freer and lighter. And just like you're saying, now you have the awareness. Instead of being stuck in this kind of like unconscious, like, oh, I can't believe this person. You can be like, I can't believe this person for a moment and be like, well, okay, hold on.
Yeah,
And then you're
definitely.
able to observe yourself and start to do the inner work. And that's
Yeah.
half the battle, the self awareness and being kind with ourselves. That's why I call my business with kind awareness, because
Mm,
we can use awareness as a baton to hit ourselves on the head. Oh, I should have known better. I've learned this tool. Why did I not do that? Ta, 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 ta. But it's like, no, let's use awareness with kindness because we're going to go so much farther.
beautiful, beautiful. And honestly, there's so much that one can say about evolving on this journey. And that's why I love that I also call it the sacred undressing, because it's
Mhm.
really about unraveling. I
Yes.
recently released an episode with Tara Wisco on it was called Self Reclamation. And one
Nice.
of the things she does in her own program with ladies is she takes them through 3 steps, right? And one of the first steps is unraveling. And I remember saying to her that I love that you have a stage called the unraveling. That's the first stage out of the 3 stages. Because unraveling means you're pulling skin, you're removing faces, you're
Yes.
removing labels, you're letting go of things that are not yours. Calling it sacred undressing, and you said that you kind of like initiate women to unravel themselves as well, to pull off all those masks so that they see who they are on the inside. It's such a
Yes.
beautiful description of the journey, because when I think of a sacred undressing journey, I think of remembering, I think of a reckoning. And how do you hold space for women to face those layers they've hidden behind for so long?
Yes, I love that. It is a coming home to yourself, really. Absolutely. How do I do this? I would say, first of all, one of my superpowers is to actually see layers and ask
Hmm.
specific questions that help people to actually see. I just had a coaching session with my client this morning, and she was telling me how, she struggled when her partner says doesn't support her in her business because she feels unsupported. And she's seeing that pattern. And I said to her, well, hold on, like, I get that. And there's some childhood stuff around that, and we've discussed that before. I'm like, if you felt empowered in your business, if you felt really successful, would it matter as much? And she said, oh, okay, there you go. There you
Okay.
go. You know, and it's about helping to go more to the core stuff instead of just like working on the surface stuff, which can create shifts, which can be powerful. But I like to go more to the core because then it has more of a ripple effect. Then she can see, okay, there is that pattern of feeling supported, but why it felt such a big deal is because I don't feel empowered in my business. So we can work on that instead. And that actually will have more of a ripple effect on the relationship and this kind of like support pattern. But the way I do it so I can really help women, like you said, like hold on to these layers, or these layers have been put there for reasons, sometimes as protection layers, is really to hold the space with so much kindness and non judgment. There is nothing anyone can say that will throw me off. I've heard I've heard it all anyway. I'm human too. I've had these thoughts like there's nothing that people can say that they will feel judged by me. And I will support my clients no matter what they choose, and they know that. Because whatever direction they're going, I know how to support them. It's a mix of mentorship and coaching. That's why it was so important for me to coach and support women on a journey that I've been on myself. And that's where the mentoring comes from. Coaching, which I've done with Tony Robbins and and before that, is really more like I'm going to ask you questions and let you find your own answers, which is also very powerful. But what I have found in the coaching journey is that people feel a little bit like left to their own device. It's like, okay, and that's my experience too when I was purely coached, like, but I want to be held a bit more, like, where are we going? I don't want to feel like it's all by myself. And so by mixing this mentoring and coaching, like, listen, what we're going to do here, we're going to build you from the inside out. Right now, like, we're going to, let's say, for this person, the queen. And then when they're strong and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm more of myself now. I'm feeling stronger. Okay, great. Now we can start like, okay, depending on, like, okay, now we have this layer of the lover. Like, what are we going to do? And what we're going to get you to a point where you can be with people, peopling, no problem, right? And then we start unraveling, while I'm not imposing what you should do. I'm not imposing what you should decide. You have your own free will. I'm here to guide you, but I have a North Star. I have an idea of like what's going to be the most empowering for you to unravel in your power and your truth.
Wow, so powerful, so beautiful. Thank you for breaking that down for me. I'm short of words at the moment because I was like, wow, there's so much that it's involved in helping women in this process. If I were to ask myself questions for layers or to get to know my layers, where would I start?
I would say I would start with in quote unquote negative emotion. Oftentimes, and that's why I talk a lot about relationships, because relationships are a mirror of our own stuff. And so it's like annoying, but it's the best way to grow. And so when there's discomfort, like if you're in your comfort zone, you do your daily thing, you do your meditation, it's like, oh, in my perfect little bubble, how do I find layers? I mean, you can ask some questions, you can wonder, but if you start stepping out of your comfort zone, you start putting into yourself in a situation where you actually get triggered, you're going to find the layers. You're going to be like, okay, hold on. Like my client, I asked my husband for testimonial and he didn't want to give it to me. I felt like he didn't want to support my business. Okay, that's a negative emotion. And now we start to look, okay, what's actually going on? what's happening within me that I'm reacting to this? Because you can have two different people in the exact same situation. You probably have that in your life. One person's upset, the other person's not. And you might even be like, how are you not upset with this? What? I don't understand. Why? Because there isn't that initial wounding or that initial thing that got poof triggered. Like the other person doesn't have it. So it's like, it's like no, no upset there. So these reactions, the mirroring is so powerful because now we can be like, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for the information. I'm going to go look into that. And I can go and do my own inner work.
That's so beautiful, honestly. And you said one of your episode titles that was like a suggestion said, "Becoming your true self isn't a glow up, it's a stripping down."
Yeah.
Can you share more of what you believe needs undressing outside of what you've mentioned?
I'll answer and tell me if I'm answering the question. What
Okay.
I meant by that title is like sometimes we feel like I need to learn a new course. I need to just, I need to be more patient. I need to be, so we think like we're not enough and we need stuff outside of ourselves to make us whole. And so that's what I'm speaking to is like, no, it's not like that. It's about stripping down the layers. You're already whole within you. So by letting go of like perfectionism, needing to control everything, some limiting beliefs about life, about people, about myself, some conditioning, some perspectives also. And one a big thing actually, it's the black and white mentality. Oftentimes it's either right and wrong. Why? Because as we grow up, if we want to be the good girl, we need to know the rules. Like if I want to meet the rules, I need to know what they are. So it's like there's like this is right and this is wrong. And so what happens and now we become righteous because when people like we put so much effort and energy in being right, when people don't do it, we're like, what's wrong with you? You can do whatever you want. Like that's not fair. And now we get triggered by that. We become righteous. And we actually, and that's what I felt for myself, like I was putting myself in my own prison, always wanting to do the right thing and finding the right thing. One time when early in my first marriage, I just got married and started to live together. And I was seeing a psychologist for some childhood stuff. And I don't know how it came to the subject, but I said to her, how often should we wash walls and windows? I wanted to know the rule so I can meet it. And she said, well, I mean, how often do you want to wash them? And I thought she was crazy. I'm like, what do you mean, me? What? I mean, if it's up to me, I might never wash them. I don't know. Like, I don't really want to. And she said, well, then don't. Then I thought she really lost it. I was so stuck in the good girl. I needed to know the rules to follow. And so, one thing that we start to transcend is that black and white mentality, because
Yes.
that's what we used to judge ourselves to.
Yeah.
And we start hurting ourselves because of that. And we embrace duality.
Mm. Oh my goodness, yes. You're saying everything that I need to hear so we can have a proper conversation. For me, like, I've always been seen as a bad girl, and I'm not like, now I've come to terms with it. A baddie is a baddie. If you're bad, you're bad. It's fine. But I know that to get to that point, I had to feel like I was wrong for following what felt so natural to me. I was wrong for not being so good on paper. I've never done anything right on paper. But the thing is, at the core of it on paper, I still look good. This is in terms of like career, education, all those things that really do matter to me. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But
Yeah.
other than that, the whole career path beyond school, I worked for myself for a while. I was an artist in my 20s, which was nice. I just said to myself that I'm not ready yet to go into the corporate world. I haven't grown enough yet. I still think I have to play by certain rules to win. And I know that me being a neurodivergent person, if I play with those rules, I'm going to fail. So I need to create my own rules and see what works for me.
Yes.
So I spent my 20s, being an artist, having some jobs here and there, but mostly being an artist. It's not like I made a lot of money on that part with art. And then I started to do tarot reading and entertaining at parties, which I still do now.
Mm-hmm.
So that got the money. And that got the money because that was more aligned with me spiritually.
Yes.
So I was able to make a living for myself before I moved back to Nigeria, where all of a sudden, after a while, I was like, you know what? I've had a lot of time to myself in my 20s. While doing the art and the tarot reading and the entertainment, which was so fun, I was doing a lot of healing. And I just knew I couldn't be out into the world until I'd done enough healing, until I'd done the thing where I felt like I could show up in society as myself, not caring about people that I'm meeting, not bending or contorting so people would like me, not giving a damn what people would think about me, you know? So in
Hmm.
my 30s, I got to that point and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for the office. I'm ready for corporate world. I'm ready for 9 to 5. It was so different from me. I was like, oh my goodness, people usually, at least from my age, in my culture, or let's say where I'm from, you'd usually do the work first. You'd usually work first to like build your money up. And then if you want to be an artist, you
Mhm.
switch. You get what I'm saying? It's smart,
Yes.
it's intelligent. I was the one that was the starving artist first, you know. And then I was entertaining for a while, but then I then switched to corporate. Okay. And I was laughing because now I'm in that transition point to other people who've built their career life and are leaving it so they can pursue their artistic world. But for me,
Yeah.
I'm like, hell no, I'm not going back into art so full time. I need to work. But what's my point here? Our stories are different. Our life paths are different. If you ever think, whoever is listening, that you need to follow a certain step or follow a certain path to get to where you're going to be deemed successful or seen as worthy or seen as doing the right thing, and it involves following paths written by other people, you're not going to get to where you're going. You're going to find yourself like lagging behind a certain bit, but there's never anything as lagging behind. It's just the illusion of lagging behind. Everybody has their own time. You know, now I'm working 9 to 5 and I assimilated so quickly. So
Hmm.
quickly. It's so crazy. It's like I've been doing it for a while. And yeah, my point is that I didn't follow the path. I was just seen
Yes.
as bad, you know, and I'm still where I need to be and I'm thriving, you know, and I have this podcast to come to at the end of work just to still hold on to that other side of me and enjoy that side of me because there's less pressure on it to be amazing. And do you know what the funny thing is? The gag is that it's when I started working that I started seeing more success with everything I was doing on the side just
That's
because I
awesome.
started working. So you can imagine it's like I don't know. I don't know what to say, but it's like
I
what
love
do you
that
think?
because it's really sums up a lot that we've been talking about. It's like, well, stop being the good girl, right? Your path might be different than other paths. And it's like you were seen as the bad girl. You could have been attached to the bad girl persona and just start. And that's what some people do. I'm just
Okay.
going to go against the grain, da da da. But that's also kind of a layer. You're also not coming back to your truth because you went back to corporate. I
Mm,
mean, some people might feel like, oh, but everybody's leaving corporate. Everybody's like following their path and da da da. It's like, well, says who?
yeah.
Like, if that's what aligns and that's what I'm ready for and that's
Why
what
not?
feels like, yeah. So there's no, because sometimes it can be like, there's the corporate, and then it's like, oh, but the spiritual people are doing that. Now
Yes,
I'm going in a spiritual
exactly.
circle and I'm saying love and light, even though it doesn't align with me. That's still
Mm,
an aspect of the good girl, just different set of rules with different type of identities we associate with. And what I
oh
love about your
wow.
journey is that you didn't do that. You weren't like, oh, like I'm the artist. Like, yeah, I'm doing this for a part of my life, and then I'm gonna evolve into tarot, and then I'm gonna go to corporate because that feels very much aligned, and
Yeah.
it's your own unique journey.
Very unique journey. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was so awesome having this conversation with you. I really appreciate you having me here.
It's my pleasure. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I only have two more questions for
Oh
you.
yeah, please.
Yes. So I noticed that you said that from your first marriage, and I did want to ask, but I didn't want to pry or I didn't know how to frame it. I've noticed, or what I'm noticing is that we do tend to have, or you find that people tend to have that first life with a
Mm,
certain partner where it's the life in which you have the identity of being the good girl or
yeah.
being the one that wants to look successful on paper.
Hmm.
And then when you finally reach that transition, you become this whole new identity. Sometimes it's like that partnership also falls apart because they can't latch on or merge with this true version of you, which is why it's
Yes.
so important for us to shed all these layers so that we're existing as our true selves, so
Mm.
that we kind of like speed up the process of setting lags. And that is leading me into my question. What would you
Mhm.
say to the version of yourself who was still stuck in the pharmacy trying to fit in?
What would I say to her?
Yes.
Hmm.
As your future self.
Yeah. That's interesting because it's kind of like also, I know that my path, however it was, led me to here, right? So it's like certain things needed to happen for me to be where I am today. So if I were to go back before kind of like that awakening of, let's say, that anxiety medication and wanting to dive in, I would probably say go work on yourself. Go learn, take courses, dive into self awareness, personal development, spirituality. Go explore and get to know yourself more. One of the biggest realizations I had one day, I don't know, after that I started to dive into everything. I started to read a lot of books, and I remember sitting in the living room, and I can't remember what the book was, but it was talking about self-responsibility and how when we're reactive, it's something inside of us like we've been talking about. But that was a new concept for me. And I remember sitting there and just being like, "Whoa." That was such a shock, and it started to shift things within me, but I wasn't aware of that. Not because, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And so, really, for me, I would say go read, go look within yourself and grow and learn. And I know that if I would have started that sooner, I would have gotten to the realizations that I've gotten to this point.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. Honestly, thank you for sharing that. And I like how you said at the end of the day, everything you experienced led you to where you need to be today. And that's such a beautiful perspective to have about life in general. A lot of times we go through experiences and we're like beating ourselves up because now we know better and we think back to that time when we didn't and we start to judge that version of self. A lot of times as people, when we're evolving through old versions of self, it's so good to have compassion because now that you know better, you find yourself going back to issues in the past and berating yourself or just being hard on yourself about not knowing better at that moment. But that's how it's meant to be. Because if you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be that person now saying, oh, if I had known that earlier, I would have done this. No. So I really want people to understand that what she said is profound because it's kind of like creating closure with your past and letting it be. Letting it be the thing that propelled you forward. Now in the present, what is your life like now? Is it better than it was before? Yes, it is. And it is because you learned those lessons in the past and now you're better in this present. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a beautiful place to stop. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, Nejma. Wonderful, wonderful conversation. In fact, we dove deep. I feel like I uncovered layers.
Ah,
And
yay.
I just feel like I see myself even more now. I really like myself as a person. And this is coming from a time when I
Yeah.
didn't like myself. So
Hmm.
to have this conversation, I'm just being aware of the fact that I've done a lot of undressing and I feel so in tune with myself and I'm looking forward to undressing even more. And as I shift through life, as I shift through different experiences, I just see myself evolving into somebody that I may not recognize, but she feels very familiar. There's this sense of knowing, there's this sense of remembering that I know you from somewhere. And I'm finally glad that we get to meet again.
Yes. Beautiful. Well, she's such a beautiful soul, Viv. Thank you for bringing
Oh,
these
thank
conversations
you.
to your audience and, investing this time in this very important mission.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Okay, so we hope to see you on the podcast again, Nejma.
Absolutely, Viv. I would be thrilled to come back.
Yes, thank you. Okay, bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye. Yes.